And the stereo, if you look at the panning, it's kind of we brought it in a bit. We haven't kept it on the I think that's true to say. We've brought it in a bit, and a lot of the things we now do with 7.1, we use divergence a lot. So you change the shape of the room that you're moving your stereo signal around. So where we might bring it down into here, we might say, oh, I want it to be in the room a bit more. When you're in 7.1, it means that it's now much louder on the sides. In 5.1, you wouldn't have those sides. There's no side speakers, but in 7.1, you've got 2 side speakers. So you want to change the shape of the room and perhaps change the level, the volume level of the 2 speakers on either side, which you can do now. And we do a lot. You can see this just does this is just changing the center point. So when you're laying up your effects, you're not just changing the volume of each individual node up and down. You're saying, well, look, I've got control here of not only I can put it in the room where I want, that's great, all lovely. I can change how much I'm sending to. You can see the speaker signal on the top in the center. By rolling that down, you can say, well, it's now not in the middle at all. So if you've got a dialogue sequence, for example, and you're running an ambience through the dialogue sequence, and it's a loud, booming ambient, you're thinking, well, I need the dialogues in the middle, always in the middle. I want to give them more space. So I'm just going to do it on here. I'm just going to take that atmosphere and I'm going to roll out the center. So it's quieter on the center. So we're doing so much of a mixer's job in the Pro Tools now, which is great because it gives us a sensibility of what we want to end up with. And a mixer will appreciate it if he's only got 3 weeks to do a 7-week job. Here they're all on fire. So let me show you the setup I.O. So hopefully that'll be, so you're basically, in your cutting room, you can only monitor 151 setup. So everything in your session has to eventually be heard in 151 output. So that's your single 5.1 output. Very simple, very straightforward. The bussing is a little bit more complicated. So you create, here I've got A bus, 7.0 setup, B bus, 7.0, and I'm actually, because we're bouncing into 5.1, I've also made a subpath, which is a 5.0 as well, because that's what we're running on here. But let's say, for all intents and purposes, this is a 7.1 session. So all my groups, all these groups here, are all allocated through each bus, A, B, C, D, all the way down to M in this case. Then that M bus, so if you see here, that's not going to be, this is going, you can't really see it, this is going out of M bus, A bus, because this is group A. It's got a subpath, but that's for the 5.0. So all these tracks, the stereos, the monos, they're all going out, bus output A.
So you don't route every single track, the one on the left side, then more on the right side. So everything on group A,
yeah, everything on group
is
A
on the same position.
Goes out, bus out A, which is that one.
Yes.
There's B, C, D, E, etc. Then the input, so then we make a bus track, which is just an audio track. Make an audio track, and none of these tracks in the group have inputs. There are no inputs set, because we're only about recording out, we're not about recording in on this session. This is an effect edit session. Except for the bus track. So we create a new track, and it's called A bus, and it's a 7.1 track, not a stereo, not a mono. It's a 7.1 track, and the input is going to be bus A. There's our bus A coming in. So you make that your input. So those are all going out bus A, and that's going in bus A, and then its output is our 5.1 output, our monitoring output. We only have one output. So all our buses, all these groups, all these buses, A, B, C, they're all coming out of the same 5.1 or 7.1, whatever your output is. 5.1 for most of us, because we don't have 8 speakers in our room. But each one, this one obviously is bus C, so it's coming out of bus group C. Now, the sessions that I've given you are a very simple form of this. You'll see there are 4 buses, I think they're A, B, C and D, and you'll see there are monos going into a bus group, and then there's a VCA. So we don't ever, I mean this is strange, I don't ever normally see any automation on the bus. We don't like to have automation on the bus. We only like to have automation on the VCA, because that automation on the bus, I don't know if you're familiar with VCAs compared to bus automation, but you think, well, if all these sounds in this group are coming out of this single 5.0 output, and I want to change the level on these sounds, I want to make them lower. If I just say, all right, I'm just going to grab that and I'm going to drop it down. Actually, no, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get rid of that automation, and then I'm going to select that section, and I want them all to be quieter there. That has dropped the level of all the sounds in that group. But what it's done is it's dropped the overall volume down. And what the VCA does is it drops every individual piece of audio in there down by the relative amount. So if you've got a very quiet piece of audio and you've got a very loud piece of audio, it will drop the loud piece of audio down further than it will drop the quiet piece of audio, because what it's telling you is that it wants to keep all the information there, but it wants to make the overall impact quieter. But you don't want to lose the detail of the quiet sounds just because you're taking down everything else. So by taking down the bus, the quiet sounds will go. They'll disappear because they've been taken down altogether. But the VCA means that you're lowering the heavy sounds and maintaining the lighter sounds. So you still have all the information that you want in your mix.
So you prefer working with the VCA?
Always, always. Because not only that, once you've finished a mix and everybody's happy, you then coalesce. You say, right, I want to coalesce the automation in the VCA. And that means that it applies, so I'll do it for this section here. So I select that piece there. You can see the VCA automation, can't you? On there. It's nothing crazy, but it's a little bit. So I'm going to say I want to coalesce that to where is it? Go down to automation.
I guess you mean if you print it out,
yeah,
then you got.
Then you can go into this here, and it says to coalesce the volume automation to the clip gain. So where I've done the clip gains, it'll make this information affect the clip gain level. And if I just want to do it to the volume automation, so if I look at these tracks here and I say, okay, so I'm used to working on a laptop. Where are the volume? Where's the volume? Volume. It's here. So you see all the volume that's going on here. It'll take all this information here, and it will add it. It'll make all these levels change according to this level. So it'll keep those, but it'll adjust them using this automation here, and it'll apply it to them. And then your VCA is back to 0, back to a straight line. So the next time you go into mix, all the tracks have got the same information that they had when you finished the last mix. If you finished that mix, everything was done like this. Coalesce all the automation, so it goes to the tracks, nobody can see it, it's the tracks that still sound the same, but the VCA is now level. So then when you go back to mix again, the mixer can start with level faders and start mixing VCA automation again. And he can keep doing it. And he's not trying to catch a fader, he's not trying to ride something that's already been written, it's starting from fresh. And it's part of the reason why we can now work the way we do, because we can constantly keep updating everything and adjusting everything. And our technology allows us, it says, yeah, I've got enough memory to be able to remember all these automation nodes of tracks that have got nothing going on. There's automation here where there's nothing happening. Well, that's automation from like 4 months before this session was ever saved. There's something going on here, but there's absolutely no sound at all. And that you can see by the fact that all the tracks are the same. That's coalesced automation. That was automation that was done on one fader. There's no way somebody could write all those 5 faders simultaneously with that precision. So that was automation that was done on the VCA. It was coalesced to here, and look at it, there it is. That's your VCA automation from the last mix. And this is all that was done after that was done. So there's a huge amount of mixing going on there, and in this pass, very little. Just a few bits and pieces, not much at all.
But the group bus is excluded from the VCA, isn't it? Or is it included?
The group bus is excluded.
Excluded, yeah.
Yeah.
And
which is why I don't like mixing on the bus.
Yeah.
Because
exactly. Yeah.
it shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's too dangerous. It's too brutal.
Yeah. And another question with the clip gain: do you like everything that is kind of automation? Do you do it like with the VCA, or do you use the clip gain automation as well?
Yeah, I use the clip gain on the tracks.
Yeah.
Only. The VCA I just like to use for. Sorry, let me skip this. The VCA I like to use just for volume automation, not clip gain, just volume. And the clip gains we do individually on the tracks. And one of the reasons why we do it is because if there's a nasty bump, we can literally just take that, as you know, and then just drop that down. And we haven't cut the track, we haven't created a new file. It's brilliant with dialogue editing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best thing about clip gain is dialogue editing, because you can do much fine work, and it's invisible work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of things that we do which don't need to be visible. In effects and everything else, you don't need to see what everybody's done. You can just do it with clip gain and they go, okay, nobody needs to know that we had to do this, it's just something we have to do. But there are other times when the mix is going, why is this so big? And you go, okay, well maybe it's because we've got like loads of automation on the EQ, or maybe there's, I don't know, I don't know what we've done there. But the mixer needs to be able to dig into and drill down into the process that we've used to create the sounds that we've done. So we might put an EQ sweep on something which is automated, it's not applied, it's just there, it's live. And we need the mixer to be able to see that in case he wants to change it.